Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I just disabled the waiting room, so I think everybody should be able to get in here and join us without any further delay. I want to welcome everyone to our first Southwestern Spotlight of 2021. So proud to have Angel Ajala join us tonight. She is a second-year student in our full-time program. And, we hope that you will have some questions for her and for us. Brittany and Armand are going to be in the chat answering your questions as fellow current students. So please feel free to ask questions there as well. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Angel. If you want to just tell us a brief introduction of yourself and some of the various activities that you've had a chance to be part of during your time with Southwestern so far.
Thank you so much, Dean Gear. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Angel. First of all, I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your literally Monday evening to come and hang out with me for 45 minutes and pick my brain about our awesome Southwestern community. I am not joking when I say that I love, love, love it here so much. And this place has really helped me come a lot into my own, not only as a woman, but as a human and as an attorney. And I'm sorry that I live in downtown in LA. So loud outside, so I apologize. But a little about me. My name is Angel Ajala. I am a 2L here at Southwestern. And I came to law school because I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I've wanted to be an attorney since I was 6. I watched Legally Blonde and I said, I want to be pretty and smart, which I know sounds crazy because we live in 2021. There's a feminist movement and I'm all for it. But really what it was that I knew that the society that we lived in that pushed this concept that women couldn't both be together and whole in the home and still somehow achieve and pursue their passions in their career was just false. I always knew that I wanted to be the best at both. And that's what really kind of initially sparked my passion. And if you can't tell already, I talk incessantly. So that is what continues to drive me. Cannot wait to get paid by the hour for it. But yes, so that is a lot of what brought me here to Southwestern. Now that I've been here, I've gotten involved in so many things. I did my undergraduate degree at Holy Names University. I studied forensic criminology, which is kind of just a fancy way of combining sociological, psychological, and criminological theories of why people deviate from society, right? What makes people engage in specific types of behavior that we of a society have decided we don't like that. We want to criminalize you and attach negative stigmas. And it really taught me that we are whole people and what drives us to commit certain types of conduct varies. And that stuff should be considered when we're deciding to punish people forever. That's basically what brought me here. Since I came to Southwestern, I've had the time to really itch that criminal law bug. I have had the opportunity to act as both a research and teaching assistant in criminal law. I am also a peer mentor in our amazing peer mentor program. I am also the director of community outreach and building with our school's SBA. And through that position, I've been able to launch our Safe Space series, which I'm sure I'll get a chance to tell you guys a little bit more about. And then I'm also one of our representatives for our school's teen court. And I'm also the event coordinator for our Black Law Student Association. I say also a lot, so you can tag it every time you see it. But that's a little about me, a little much about me, but I really appreciate you all so much for taking the time and making the space. And Dean Gear, thank you so much for allowing me and presenting me as the first student spotlight this semester. That's a great honor and I appreciate you.
Oh, you are very welcome. I appreciate you too. I remember when we first met, and I'm pretty sure we were in the second floor of the Bull Exposure building, which I know we were all just talking about before everybody jumped on that we can't wait to get back to campus. So, excuse me. So I did just mention in the chat, if you have a question, you can raise your Zoom hand, or you can actually just wave at me on here and I will call on you. We want to make sure that this is as interactive as possible and that everyone here gets a chance to ask their questions either in the chat or live. So I do have questions for Angel, but I'm sure you do too. So Angel, I know you've had a chance to do a lot of different things. Has there been something that you feel like has really sort of stood out or risen to the top for you as something that you're, maybe most proud of, or something that you really knew you wanted to pursue and, got a chance to do so far?
Yes, absolutely. For me, I would say what I call my baby is the Safe Space series. I think really the value that the opportunity to launch the Safe Space series, and I'll go ahead and introduce it because obviously most of us are guests here. So, following the shooting of George Floyd this summer, our school's Black Law Student Association, which I'll call BOLSA just to make things easier, our school's BOLSA decided to have sort of a town hall where we just wanted to have an open conversation, just asking what's going on in the world. What are the repercussions of these actions on the side of the government? What are the protesters' rights? How does this affect us as students in law school, as future attorneys, and really as Black people, right? How does this impact us, and why don't we have an opportunity to discuss it? Most of you haven't started law school yet, so you don't really know that law school is a lot about learning how to apply the law. It's really your experience that gives you the opportunity to actually apply that in a real world context. And what I mean by that is pretty much everything in law school is very theoretical. I call it the casebook world. If anyone in here has ever had a class with me, I'm like, excuse me, professor, in the casebook world. And that's because, in my opinion, it's different than the real world. But when you're actually having a chance to practice, it's totally different. And I really wanted to bring that real world issue discussion to law school. We have a chance to dive into these issues theoretically and see the issues that impact our Black and Brown communities, see the way that our Asian community is currently being discriminated against, right? We can see the issues going on in Armenia, but we don't have a chance to really discuss them as a community. So the shooting of George Floyd really acted as a catalyst that made the school kind of spongy and amenable to the concept of like, we need to have a discussion. And they really heard me when I brought the conversation. I think I sent a text to our school's president that morning. I said, hey, George Floyd shooting happened. We need to talk about it. I have no idea what the format's going to be, but we need to have a discussion. That led to a town hall where 250 people participated, and it really sort of spun the necessity for this sort of space to rawly discuss these issues without feeling repercussed by our professors, without feeling like we're confined to the professional space that we're in. We needed a safe space to ask safely what the hell is going on in the world and how can we unpack it. And the safe space really was launched out of that. And it is my proudest accomplishment, my favorite thing I've ever done, the thing that if I could convince my mother to let me get another tattoo, it's the thing I would do next. It's my baby, and it's the thing I'm really proud to have brought to the Southwestern community.
That's wonderful. Yes, I remember seeing all of the different promotion for it. And just so our guests are aware, we do promote these on our various social media platforms. So if you follow us or some of the groups that Angel has mentioned, then you will likely see some of these posted. And I believe they're able to join, right, Angel?
Yes, they're open. Our password is I am an ally, because you have to pledge your alliance and your openness to our plight before you come. And I love it.
That's wonderful. Um, so I know this, you described the Safe Space series as your baby. And I think that's such an endearing way to look at something that I'm sure has also been so meaningful to our community. Can you tell us about something that you have purposely done to push yourself out of your comfort zone? Because I feel like, getting to this place and going to law school, undoubtedly you knew was going to challenge yourself. But has there been something in particular that you knew, skills wise or whatever it may have been, that you really feel like you needed to just go get it? And what has that been?
Definitely. For me, I think I've always been a person that was really cool on a social level. I was able to make friends easily, to build connections and maintain them just because I'm lucky I'm a Libra and I have a very amenable personality. But I think coming into law school, some great advice I was given was that I needed to say yes to everything because I have a path for leadership. And it's not because like I'm a great delegator or I like to take charge, but because I see things in a bigger picture. So I was really challenged to take on the role of leadership so that I could sort of bring that balance and bring that opportunity for different perspectives to be counted. And so I came into law school day one thinking, I'm going to say yes to everything. Literally, as much as I can say yes to, as much as the school will let me, as much as my bosses will let me, as much as my own mental capacity will let me, I'm going to say yes to every opportunity to step out of my comfort zone of just being socially interactive and really have an impact that lasts and really build meaningful connections with people that are past the fact that I'm just funny or wear like a cute highlighter and stuff like that. I wanted to make really meaningful connections. And so for me, that was stepping into leadership roles. I actually was encouraged very strongly by my assigned Dean's Fellow and by my assigned peer mentor in 1L to run for my student section representative. I have literally never run for any sort of leadership position in my life. And I was nervous because, of course, I had the section that was super active. I ran up against, I think, against 8 different people. And I went up there and I said, hey, I'm sorry, I came from a nursing background. I don't have any awesome experience in like policy in Washington. I don't have a ton of experience doing anything, but my parents are both educators and they taught me that the value that you have is being able to explain something over and over and over in different ways to different people. And if you can do that, you can appeal to the largest number of people and essentially help them. So I ran, I told people in my class that, I don't know what, if they were tired or what, but they voted for me. And that was my first taste of leadership and my first affirmation that this was essentially my meant to be.
I think you're definitely onto something here for sure. So we have a couple questions in the chat. Patience wanted to know if you can walk us through your LSAT prep process and your law school application to admission. Key tips or insights?
Absolutely. I would say if no one has told you this already, the LSAT is a game. I don't know if we're allowed to say that. No one has sent me a letter saying otherwise. So I'm just going to tell you the LSAT is a game and it's there because it's supposed to be sort of our pre-process of helping you figure out if you have the capacity to understand that all of these things are essentially a game. They're convoluted for you to figure out. So our LSAT is broken into 3 different parts. The only part that you can genuinely really study to improve is the logic games. You've got to focus on the logic games. Find any bar prep material that narrows in on the logic games because no matter how many different scenarios you run into, there's only a total of about 8 total games in logic games. And if you figure out how to do something called diagramming and figure out how to diagram the formula for each logic game, then you will more easily be able to recognize the game that you're coming across, answer the game, and get all of the answers in the set correctly. So the place that you're probably struggling the most with is in logic games because your analytical reasoning and your reading comprehension skills are things that we've kind of enveloped since we were kids, essentially, things that we've been tested through our SATs. It's the logic games that are there to throw you off. But there is a reason that they implement them, and they put them there and make you figure out the rhythm and the pattern of the constants of the games, because that's a lot of what we do when we're reading cases in law school. You have to figure out the language the court is using to highlight what an issue is, where the facts are, where the rules are, et cetera, et cetera. So take a breath, understand that you don't need to focus on reading comprehension. You don't need to focus on analytical reasoning. If you want to improve your score, focus on materials that teach you how to attack those logic games and just practice. And I pinky promise, I'll put my email in the chat and you can email me if I lie. That will improve your score better than anything else.
Good advice. So Ashley is asking, how do you juggle being part of so many groups and being a student at the same time?
Ooh, with prayer. No. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot, but I have great friends. I have a really supportive family, and they remind me of a lot more things than they should. They're like, hey, don't you have this? Don't you have that? If you are a person that is naturally more of a type A personality that likes to calendar and keep on top of things, then my schedule is not overwhelming to you at all. Our schools and our organizations are very understanding of each other. They try not to overlap meetings and events. So it's easy to sort of calendar them into your schedule, but you just have to be the type of person that's able to keep on top of your schedule. And that is personally my biggest problem. But 80% of the people in law school are way better at that than I am. So if you can stay on top of your time management, I promise you can manage all the things I'm doing and even more.
Great. So Samantha is asking, how did you decide that Southwestern was the school for you? And did you have any tips on making this decision?
I would say, and I mean, I don't want to toot your horn, but it's Dean Gear. I met her at a law school symposium when we had the blessing of being in person. We were allowed to go to these large sort of hub events where multiple law schools had representatives that were giving information about their respective schools. I was getting information about Southwestern through prospective student portals, but I was not sold on it until I had a Scouts Honor, like 15-minute long conversation with Dean Gear at the admissions table. And she just gave me undivided attention. And it was something that I, as a human being, really needed. If you guys can't tell, I'm not normal. I'm not the type of person that comes to law school. I'm not super organized. I'm very creative, very all over the place. And Dean Gear really made me feel like by giving me that 15 minutes of her attention in a room full of literally hundreds of students, that this would be a place where attention would be paid to me. And that was what I needed. I needed to feel like I wasn't going to go to a law school where I was going to get lost in the sauce, swept up, and glided over. If you guys don't know, only 4% of the attorneys in this country are Black. Only 2% of them are Black women. And I was not going to just be another person that didn't make it past my first year or got my Juris Doctor but never was able to pass the bar. I wanted to go to a school where I felt like I was paying all this money to be supported, and Dean Gear gave me that. I went home. I was with my mom actually, and I was like, Mom, I'm applying. This is happening. Put all your prayers towards it. I was like having her direct her prayer points towards it. I'm like, this is what we're doing. This is the path. Don't worry, it's happening. Dean Gear gave me great advice about improving my LSAT score and how to attack that. And it worked. And I was really grateful for the opportunity to be admitted. So sorry to blast you, Dean Gear, but it was 90% you, love. And
I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have a person who wants to join in on the conversation. That's lovely. Okay, so Brianna Humphrey, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you so much for your time, both to Dean Gear and to Angelique. So I am a prospective law student, and I'm hoping to start in the fall of 2022. I just have a question about how Southwestern is sort of keeping its pulse on what's happening in the legal industry in LA.
What's the matter?
Obviously, things are changing with COVID, and I guess lawyers are probably changing the way that they're working or the fields that they're working in. So I guess for Dean Gear, what are some ways that Southwestern is keeping its, I guess, eye on the pulse of the legal industry in LA? And Angelique, can you talk a little bit about how you've seen that Southwestern is connected to the legal industry in LA, whether it be through like partnerships with local bar associations or events, things like that? Thank you.
Sure. So I think, what you're asking is a really relevant question, particularly, during these really challenging times. But I also want to comment that this is not really new for us, in the sense that Southwestern, we sometimes call ourselves LA's law school. And that's really been true for over 100 years, right? I mean, our foundation in LA is very deep. And I think one of the things that we really pride ourselves in as an institution is responding to the needs of our community. And that community being defined as either our students, staff, and faculty, or also the community that we serve. And so as those different elements grow, in certain ways, we really do try to be really responsive. A number of years ago when we started launching some of our on-campus clinics, and it's not a surprise to me if you know anything about our clinics, the ones that sort of rose to the top, really speak to, I think, our community at large, whether or not it's the immigration clinic, or it's, dealing with some special education laws, or dealing with, youth who've had extremely long, prison terms, and working to help them get paroled, whatever that looks like, right? That speaks to both the interests of our students, but also what the community of Los Angeles, California, the United States, right, the world, what we all kind of need. And so some of the things that we do to facilitate that are to give students opportunities to get out there and get that exposure. So for example, even during these challenging times of the pandemic, the externships that we had last summer outnumbered the externships that we had had previously. And we already have a really, really large, robust externship program. And if you don't know, an externship is just another term for internship. It's where you go out and you get field placement for course credit. And so, you could be at the DA's office or public defender's office or city attorney, or at a public interest organization or an entertainment firm, right? And there's a lot of stuff in between. But that's just a really small example of some really critical things that we continuously do. And we do that because it supports the needs of our students, but it also supports the needs of the community. And the forums that Angel was referring to, I mean, we had staff forums and we had all sorts of things, kind of rise to the top of discussions that were hard, but that were necessary. And so I think, you can't really move forward sometimes unless you stop and also look back. And I think we're constantly just, as an institution, looking at what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Should we be doing it? And when you ask yourself those questions, right, as individuals or as members of this greater, process, it gives you that point of reflection. And sometimes you realize, yes, we're doing exactly what we mean to do. How can we do it better? And sometimes you have to say, okay, where do we need to pivot? And we're constantly, in that state of evolution. So I hope I answered that part of your question. Angel, did you want to tackle the other part?
Of course, thank you. And that was a wonderful answer, by the way. I definitely say that Southwestern is very amenable. It's a word I use way too much because I read too many law school books, and I'm in constitutional law. We're learning all about the amendments, so I use the word amenable too much. But I would say Southwestern is really fluid, right? They understand what's happening in the world. They're really tapped in on it because a phrase that we use a lot that I honestly feel like we should use more is that our strength is our students. The students really do kind of make the administration, make the faculty, and make our programming aware of what's happening, not only on our campus, but within the community. For me in particular, my role in our Student Bar Association is as the Director of Community Outreach and Building. So part of my job is sort of brainstorming, strategizing, and figuring out ways to connect us as a Southwestern community to other schools, to other organizations, so that we can strengthen our common goals, right? It's all about collaboration. That's the biggest thing for me, both as a leader and as a team member. It's all about collaboration and strength in numbers and using our students and our perspectives to really inform the way that Southwestern moves forward. And I feel like we've seen that in our retention rates with our students of colors, even our admission rates with our student of color. Our bar passage rate this last time, if you all haven't seen it, is beyond normal. Like, it is crazy and it is beautiful. It is amazing to see how many of our students were able to overcome the circumstances that we're currently in to tackle the bar. It motivates me so much as I'm here in my house in front of my fake bush. So it really motivates me to like study harder and move on. You see students thriving and really finding a way to take advantage of these opportunities. And then you see the school making these broader connections, right? Having an opportunity to have nationwide externships or externships that are remote but placed in other states. Now we've widened our externship pool, we've widened our networking, our reach as far as our relationships. And Southwestern is like, yes, you want to have an event about military justice? Yes. You want to talk about racial bias? Yes. And I love that. I feel like whatever idea is in my head, I can bring it to our community and it will literally come into fruition faster than I've even formed the idea. And that is part of our strength, because they understand that we know what's going on in our community and they really take heed to that. I hope that answers your question, by the way, Brianna. And I appreciate you so much for coming in, for asking.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's actually really, that was actually a really good answer. I was really happy to hear about it, because I've asked the question to other law schools and other staff members, and they seem to be much more rigid about what students are doing and things like that. But it's good to know that Southwestern is pretty open and amenable, as you mentioned. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, take that home. That's our takeaway for today, everyone. It's amenable. Hashtag amenable.
Amenable is a good thing, right?
Yes, we love it. We love fluidity and movement in the law. That is my favorite thing on earth.
Okay, wonderful. There's lots of questions in the chat, so I've kind of lost track of who is where at this point in the order, but I'm going to go to David. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you, Angelique, and thank you, Dean Gear, for putting this whole thing together. So far, I found this very, very informative. Question for Angelique, though. In your opinion, do you think, well, let me actually back up. In regards to the various student organizations available at Southwestern, have you found them to be primarily collaborative between the staff, the administrators, and the students? Or is it primarily just like a thing where students can come together and accomplish what they want to accomplish, like by themselves? Because I know certain schools kind of give, most of the responsibility to the students, but other schools kind of make it a more collaborative thing between the staff and the students.
Thank you so much for that question, David. And of course, thank you for coming. I want you to know that Southwestern is really cool in the way that they really attack it on both ends, right? So our student organizations, I lovingly refer to them as our affinity organizations, because we all have things that we love and things that are important to us and things that we're attached to. But our affinity organizations find the intersection between their own causes and launch initiatives together. But our administration, our faculty, our staff take it a step further, right? They implement actual task forces and committees that are dedicated to not only implementing and just fielding student concerns about like, how do we collaborate? How do we get these sort of issues going from just students to the actual administration for actual change? They find a way to catch it all, right? It's kind of like Pokemon. You're going to catch it all. So we have avenues for you to submit to our deans. We have avenues for you to come in the safe space and just vent. We have avenues for you to be able to submit formal requests. We have a literal dean's committee and an actual task force, like we're the FBI, that focuses on diversity and inclusion. How do we hire more professors that are not only racially, but culturally and experientially diverse, right? Because I think we look at diversity sometimes in a way more narrow perspective than we should. It's not just about racial and cultural and ethnic diversity. It's about the diversity of experiences that are going to enrich the law and allow it to breathe. So I feel like Southwestern really hones in on the importance of ask your deans, ask your faculties. You don't feel comfortable going there? Okay, we have another avenue here. You don't like that one? We have something else there. And it gives you kind of like whoa, I have so many places to go with this. I mean, at this point, we're even accepting stuff on our Instagram, which I run, by the way, if you guys want to follow. So I post funny memes on our story because, you know, law school's hard. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff that we do. We really take into consideration the student body, the staff, the faculty, the administration to make everyone's voices heard. And I feel like Southwestern does a great job of that by implementing those sort of review committees.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to conflate some questions that I've been seeing in the chat here, just to make sure we get to these. There's a few questions about returning students, groups who have worked previously, and that type of thing. So essentially, maybe it's because of Southwestern's, you know, various programs, but we do attract quite a few students who have worked in some capacity previously. It's certainly not required, but, you know, many do take a year or two off between undergrad and applying to law school. So if that sounds like you will not be alone. That being said, you can also come straight from undergrad if you know law school is going to be the right next step for you. And I think that probably answers, hopefully, some of those questions in the chat. Let's go ahead and go to, is it Neri?
Yes. Hi, Dean Greer and Angelique. This question is for the both of you and Ms. Dean Greer. So what is Southwestern doing more on the equity side of things as a first generation immigrant, Latino? English was not my first language, and something as daunting as the LSAT is something seen as a roadblock for many of us because of all the perils that we already know. But what is Southwestern doing to look at the holistic? I applied in November, and as I'm thinking, is Southwestern just looking at the numbers strictly, which I know it's part of the system, but I also have experience in public service and law firm. So are they looking at the whole holistic and formulaic, or just, you know, what are you guys doing to actually promote the real equity and to actually help people like me and other people from other countries to move the ladder of social mobility and become professionals and lawyers and attorneys, so we can be a part of the change that we were like in. We decided to work because we couldn't, for different reasons, go into law school right away, non-traditional students. So what are you guys doing to address that?
Okay, I'm going to try and give you as transparent and straightforward an answer as I think you deserve. So the reality is the quantitative things, the LSAT and the GPA, are important. They carry a lot of weight in the admissions process at any ABA law school that you apply to. But here's what I'll say besides that. So those two things make up what I would describe as like the skeleton, right? They give it a starting point. The other things that a person brings to the table, whether it's you know, where they specifically went to school, what they majored in, their letters of recommendation, right? People that they've chosen to speak on their behalf, the things you write about in either your personal statement that's required or the optional, you know, diversity statement or optional essays. Those things give us kind of the body. That is what allows one candidate to differentiate from another candidate. Because regardless of what someone's LSAT and GPA are, somebody else has those same numbers. Probably many somebodies have those same numbers. And the reality is we can't admit everybody, right? That's just not realistic. So we do have to make some decisions. We are also charged with admitting people who we think are going to be successful at our school. So one thing that I tell, you know, prospective students at times when, you know, maybe they don't feel like their chances are as strong or they're concerned is I ask you to go back to what is the goal. If the goal for you is to go to law school, there is a law school for you. That goal may also be you want to go to a specific law school. And that's a little bit of a different story. And then there's the, you know, sort of highest tier in that goal question is going to a specific law school with scholarship, right? That's kind of like the ideal for most people. Depending upon what your answer to that question is, we could probably have a very different conversation. So, sometimes people really struggle with the LSAT, and maybe I can give you some advice, or maybe I could give you, a benchmark to try to strive for if you're kind of close to that. But to be honest, I've had people also tell me, I don't want to take it again. It was hard and I don't want to do it. And what I hear when someone says that is they're not willing to put in the work. And if they think the LSAT is hard, law school may not be the place for them because it is a drop in the proverbial bucket of hard, right? So the conversation really evolves depending upon what your questions are. In terms of, or the answers rather, in terms of support, I can tell you that the vast majority of our incoming class in times is first generation. So it is definitely something that I don't even honestly have to say we strive for. It's kind of just a natural fit at this point. And when I ask the questions about goals and where do you see yourself, what I'm also speaking to is not every person is right for every law school. Not every law school is right for every person. So part of my job, in admissions is seeing if there's a mutual fit. And you might feel, or anyone here might feel like Southwestern is the place for you, and I'm glad to hear it. But it doesn't also mean that there aren't other places for you. And so once, you go through the application process, then get admitted, then it really is your job and my job to see if that mutual fit exists between us. It doesn't serve you or me to be in a place that you don't think you're going to thrive. Angel is a great example of a person who has embraced and sought every opportunity, that's sort of just been a glimmer. Not every person does that, and that's okay. You don't have to be a student extraordinaire like Angel, but you do have to want to come to the table and work hard and be part of the community. And, that concept of fit is intangible. It's, usually kind of something you just kind of know. And it's my job to give you resources to figure out that fit, whether it's coming to events like this or speaking to other students or speaking to faculty members or alums or, back when we could to have you come to campus. Those are the kinds of things that, I have in my little toolbox to kind of help you with that process. But, I think Southwestern's commitment to its students, to diversity, to equity, honestly, I kind of think it speaks for itself, but I don't say that with any glibness. It's nothing that we take for granted. It is something that we work and continue to strive to improve. But I think it's just part of our DNA at this point. So I hope I answered your question. If anyone here has already applied, if you have questions about your status, I will put my email in the chat. You are welcome to email me and we can talk about your particulars, in greater depth.
Thank you, Dean.
You're very welcome. I'm going to put my email in the chat right now. Okay, let's go to Anthony.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just following up a little on the previous question about diversity and inclusion and admissions. I've noticed there's been recent trends of many schools approved by the American Bar Association to start accepting the GRE in lieu of the LSAT. Is this something that Southwestern has looked at or considered or as a viable option to help create a more diverse applicant pool in the future? Or where do you guys stand with the accepting the GRE in the future? Has that conversation came up yet?
It has definitely come up. It's come up many times and with great seriousness. We are not accepting the GRE at this point. We do not have a plan to start anytime soon either. That could change, but at this present time, that is not something we are pursuing. And I can tell you that some of the reasons that have come up as to why we are not, first of all, the vast majority of ABA schools do not. And those that do and have been, it's still very early in the sense that, they don't really have a lot of graduates yet from those law school programs to kind of be able to weigh the effectiveness of the GRE and then entry into law school and then ultimately bar passage. So the data is just still pretty fresh, but it is definitely something we are keeping our eye on. And, you know, not only are we amenable, we are nimble. And if that is something that is deemed to be important to our leadership and to, you know, our continued service to the community, then, you know, I don't see it as something we would never do. I just think we're not there yet. So just keep your eye on it. Maybe it'll change sometime soon. Okay, so we only have about 3 minutes, and I want to make sure we get as much in with Angel here as possible. So if any of you have other kinds of more admissions related questions, again, please feel free to email me. It doesn't have to be about your application if you haven't yet applied. And let's just try to see if we can get some more Angel questions in here before we wrap up. So I'm going to scan the chat real quick and see if there's anything that I've missed. Mary, did you have another question? Or is your hand still raised from earlier? You're on mute.
No, I was trying to put down my hand so I don't.
Oh, okay. I can lower it for you.
Thanks.
So I want to go back to a question I saw in the chat earlier that I did not get a chance to ask. And this is a question for you, Angel. Just find it here. Gosh, there's so many. I want to say there was a, oh gosh, this is longer than I thought. You guys have been busy in the chat while I was talking. Okay, one question was from Jada. Prior to law school, did you brand yourself or create any business pertaining to the field you wanted to practice in?
Short answer, no. I actually was already thinking about what I wanted to do postgraduate, which I don't know if I mentioned, but I double concentrate here at Southwestern. I concentrate in both public interest and criminal law. So I wanted to sort of start a nonprofit that was geared toward criminal law, but I was saving it for after law school. But now I've made so many connections towards what I want to do that I've begun laying the groundwork through those relationships. And so I feel like sometimes you come here with an idea and then your path just takes you where it takes you. You just got to embrace the concept of surrender and be ready for whatever comes. Shortest answer I could come up with, but please email me for other answers, of course.
Thank you, Angel. Okay, Mackenzie and then Crystal.
I have a question for Angelique. So I'm not sure if Southwestern has like orientation before the semester starts. If so, how was your orientation for you? Did you get the chance to meet incoming students or different professors? How was that experience for you?
Definitely. Again, shortest answer. We have a mandatory orientation process that all of our new students go through. It doesn't depend on which of our 5 programs that you're enrolled in, where you're going to get matched with your peer mentor, you're going to meet your dean's fellow, certain administration. But we also offer this gem, right? And if you know, by the grace, you're going to be admitted to our school, you'll be offered an opportunity to attend our Bison boot camp. That is the juice, right? That's where you meet other law students that don't know how to brief a case with you. That's where you get to meet some of your professors that you might have classes with and make sort of that preschool connection. And that is the stuff that really got me excited about school, right? I didn't feel as lost on the first day of school because I got my feet wet briefing cases and interacting with other classmates, any of these sort of Zoom events that they invite you to for admitted students. Those are the chances for you to really bond with our faculty, with other students that are super excited, so that you don't force it all until your first day because it becomes too overwhelming. So, you know, once you get in, while you're applying, come to as many things that they have a lot of stuff, girl. Come to all of it so you can meet other people that are as nervous, as excited, as bestowed as you are. And it's all going to make it so much easier once you get in.
Thank you.
Hey, Crystal.
Hi, Angel. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday to help those of us who want to learn more about Southwestern. My question is about direction. I really admire the clear direction that you seem to have even before entering law school. My question is, do you feel that that clear of a direction is necessary for success in law school? Kind of in short, is it a bad idea not to have such a clearly defined direction? And what do you see at Southwestern that would help those of us who don't have it find it?
First of all, that's a really great question. And definitely, I don't think that there is any advantage or disadvantage to knowing what you want to do before you come to law school, right? A lot of people don't tell you this and they don't really want to put this out there, but I will because no one told me I couldn't say what I wanted to. So a lot of people choose law as a second career. A lot of people choose law after working in some different fields. I knew I wanted to be an attorney, but I still chose law as a second career path because I was afraid of it a little bit. I didn't know if I was going to fit in. So really what it comes down to is knowing that you're interested in being an attorney. That's all like we require of you, right? Do you want to do it? Do you want to put in the work? Do you feel like reading? Do you feel like playing puzzle games? And do you feel like pushing yourself past what has been normally expected and required of you? That is all. Direction, it doesn't matter, because I thought I wanted to come in strictly studying criminal law, and here I am now torturing myself with a double interest with also public interest, because I fell in love with the concept of nonprofit advocacy, and that is its own love story. My best friend here in law school came in thinking that she didn't know what she wanted to do, but our second day in contracts class, I said, you're going to do transactional law, girl. That's your jug. You love math. You miss marketing. Like, you know what you want to do. One of my favorite book quotes says that any desire that you have in your heart, it originated in the soul of the universe. It is your mission here on earth. That is straight out of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I know most of you have read it because it's a great book, but wherever you feel called, you will find your path. You just have to come to law school. That's the hardest part. Just come, get sucked into the crazy, and then take full advantage after that. And thank you for coming also.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's a great quote to end on.
Thank you. I love that book. Oh, thank you. I love that book.
So we are going to go ahead and wrap up for this evening. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, including our very busy Angel herself. So thank you to everybody for joining. Angel has put her email in the chat. Maybe you can do so again in case people can't find that. And I will drop it in there again for myself. Please feel free to reach out to the admissions office for anything. Sorry, I can't talk, type, and clear notifications on my screen at the same time. And be happy to help. The students, our ambassadors, do have office hours once a week. So if you want to chat directly with students, feel free to come to those. Our future events and those office hours are on our admissions events page. I'm going to drop that for you too. And if any of you are interested in participating in our upcoming admissions event on Saturday from 10 to noon, it's an event called Succeeding in Law, and we're going to have 13 panelists and a speed networking session. So that's a great opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about various practice areas. So you can sign up for that on that link there as well. I want to thank everybody for coming, and most especially I want to thank Angel for sharing her evening with us. So if everybody can just join me, please, in thanking her. We could have spent, honestly, probably 3 more hours, and I know you could have, Angel, and we would have had plenty more questions. I'm sure everybody got really going there in the chat. So I'm sorry if we didn't get a chance to go through your particular question, but please email us. And everybody stay safe, stay healthy, take care, and see you next time.